Hey, YouTube here again to talk about things going on in the world around us. No, I did not get a haircut. I just put like 5 layers of mousse to get my hair out of my eyes. Um, and you may have noticed that I am in a completely different area than I normally am. I'm actually at my parents' place. Um, and it's a sign of things getting back to normal, I guess. In terms of COVID-19. Um, Yeah, today for the first time I went into a restaurant to order food and I got my smog checked for my car. I know California we do it every 2 years, but anyways, so on that front of things, things are simultaneously getting back to normal with COVID-19 mysteriously. Well, tens of thousands of people are organizing in the street at once, and things are getting more chaotic on the streets. So, for once, I'm kind of relieved not to talk about COVID, but in terms of these protests, um, yeah, it has definitely devolved uh, into mass rioting, and I just want to spend this video kind of calling into question um, the organizational nature behind this whole thing. People, a lot of pundits and politicians are saying that oh, this is just people are restless in the streets trying to make their voice heard, and these are just African Americans who are upset about George Floyd's death. Not really the case. If you do a little digging, and it's not hard to get this far on the internet, you'd see that most people who are actually causing all these issues are actually people who are white, who are wearing black hoods and masks. I've come across 2 videos thus far with proof that there are white people handing black people um, either weapons or bricks and cash. And I saw one video yesterday. I believe it was in Los Angeles. Uh, a white person wearing a hood hands a black guy $100, or it was a lot of money, and he just says, "Go break that bench. Here's the money. Go. If you break it, I'll pay you twice as much," or whatever he said. And the black guy goes and does it. Um, so there is definitely organization behind this, and there's two things happening simultaneously that make a hugely illogical jump. It's a fallacious jump that happens. Uh, at the same time, these celebrities are saying, "I'm donating hundreds of thousands of dollars to for the bail of these protests or these people who are in jail for rioting." You have people on the left saying, "Oh, the bad actors are white supremacists." So what is it? Are they actually, people just upset over George Floyd's death, who deserve bail, or are they white supremacists? And the answer, honestly, is it's a big mess. There definitely is organization behind it. In Columbus, Ohio, a bus was pulled over, and it looked like a hippie bus. There were paintings of um, like the type of paintings you'll see at like Burning Man all over it. Um, and in the bus, there were huge stashes of bats and bricks and steel pipes, and yeah, they were on their way to protests. Protests. The reason I keep doing this when protests is I feel like yes, there are still organized protests happening, but the people who are rioting and looting and murdering police, I don't think they care about George Floyd. Even George Floyd's family says, "All right, that's enough. We appreciate the kindness of going out and spreading the news and voicing your concern about the messed up policing system we have, but things have gone too far, so let's stop the violence. People who are out in the streets murdering cops don't care. Last night in Vegas, a van pulled up in front of two cops, door opens, bunch of gunfire happens, kills two shots via headshot, two cops via headshot. Yeah, that's not protest. Um, and uh, a gun store in Hayward, California was um, looted. My worst story, my favorite one to share, is in Richmond, California, which is mostly suburban. It's not like Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco. It's mostly suburban. A house was lit aflame, and the child was still in the house. And the protesters got in the way of the fire department from getting to the house to put out that fire. Um, and Meanwhile, in these liberal areas like the Bay Area, which Richmond is in, barely in, by the way. Richmond is like way up high. It's has one of the worst crime rates in the entire nation, and what's its East Coast equivalent? It's like its East Coast equivalent is like Pittsburgh. It's like barely touching water. Very poor areas. Um, maybe even more accurately, this isn't even East Coast anymore, but like Baltimore. You could even parallel it to Detroit, but it's just a city that's been mostly forgotten. And you have all these people in all these liberal areas uh, that have been defending these protesters. Um, you have the mayor of San Francisco saying they just need to get out of our system. We don't want to make any arrests. San Francisco wise, yes, it's been mostly peaceful in San Francisco because um, it's not an easy city to get into. You To get there, you kind of have to cross a bridge. Um, and so most of the violence you've been seeing is in the East Bay. So for those of you who aren't in the Bay Area, that's across the bridge from San Francisco. And if you want an East Coast equivalent, that's like the Brooklyn to the Manhattan, if Manhattan's San Francisco. Um, but even so, there has been some violence. Here's a parallel for you. New York City, 700 arrests, even under de Blasio. Side note on that, I'll come back to that later. 700 arrests in New York City. San Francisco, this was 2 nights ago. San Francisco, 38 arrests 2 nights ago. Same night. I understand that San Francisco maybe has about a tenth of the population of New York City because it's a much smaller area, but you can't. That that difference is not. It doesn't make sense. National Guard has come out to help a lot of these police officers in areas where it's gotten a little insane, um, like Los Angeles, and it's gotten pretty bad there, and New York, Chicago, of course, Minneapolis. Um, and Trump says, if police can't figure it out, the military is going to come in. And the response from the left has been how insensitive, how um, terrible of this president to say the military is going to come in. And we're at that point now. Peop- People will say that he's not being sensitive, but George Floyd was murdered over a week ago, and when he was murdered, pretty quickly Donald Trump even said justice was served, and the officer who did commit the act, which led to George Floyd's death, is being tried for um, third-degree murder, um, which is really just murder in the heat of the moment, which is awesome, good. Officers need to be tried for their crimes. That's a super rare thing to ever happen. But people people saying our president's being insensitive, it's past that time now. Like last night, there was a pawn shop that got broken into that is owned and operated by a former police officer who served in St. Louis for 38 years, and his murder was live streamed on the internet. Um, and the logic now is like, okay, and he was black, so like George Floyd was murdered by police, so we're going to avenge his death by killing more black people. What? And um, I understand. Like, I'm not playing devil's advocate at all. I'm just saying logically, okay, killing police officers, uh, that makes sense from the logical point of view. You want revenge for an officer killing an innocent, so the officers are the target. But now it's just innocents everywhere. Like, some random lady was shot in Walnut Creek. So I pardon my Bay Area because this is just most of my news feed that's coming in because I know people. This is where I grew up. It's what most of my news is right now. Walnut Creek's a very affluent area. Um, a lot of wealthy people live there. There's a pretty nice mall there, and that mall got hit pretty hard by looting. Um, New York equivalent like the Hamptons, honestly. It's not quite Napa Valley, but it's in that transitional area between the Bay Area and once you and like the wineries up north about 100 miles. Um, there was some lady who was just walking down the street and she was shot. Um, that's terrible. All this being said, we're long past the point of sympathizing with people protesting, um, or people rioting because, see, I pulled a Donald Trump. I had a Freudian slip. They're not the people committing these acts of violence aren't protesting. They're committing acts of violence. If you're gonna shoot someone, that's not a protest. That's murder, attempted murder if you don't kill them. Um, and so Donald Trump is at the point now where he has to say what he has to say. The military will probably have to step in to calm things down. Um, I don't like his photo op he did with the church and misquoting the Bible. That stuff's stupid. That's not neither here nor there. But one thing he is on the right track of doing is saying he wants to declare Antifa a terrorist organization. Probably because there was that tweet saying a time to go into the neighborhoods. But there are some claims that was a white nationalist organization hacking an account or whatever, or making a fake account. Either way, from what I've seen on these protests, if they're a white person wearing a black hood and a mask and committing act, often I'm seeing that with them waving the Antifa flag doing it. And honestly, these business owners who are losing their businesses after being closed for months um, due to violence, they're not fascist. So I don't know why you're attacking business owners for doing that. Um, and it's all very suspicious. It all needs to stop. Trump is on the right track again by saying Antifa, because there are a lot of people who claim to be anti-fascist who aren't tied to Antifa. I think if Trump elaborated further, and I don't even know if he understands this, but there are people called black blockers who are paid to instigate. I'll just go ahead and say it. Just to avoid being flagged. It rhymes with Sorge Noros, or Sorge Joros. Let's say that. You know who I'm talking about. Will pay millions a year to these sort of protests. And he needs to be tried for treason if he is organizing these riots, which have led to the deaths of, at this point, near 50 police officers all across the nation. And a lot of people who are privy to what's going on have been theorizing since 2016, honestly, that there will be a civil war in this country, and these are the beginnings of it. It doesn't stop now. That's where we're going. So needs to stop. Uh, um, FBI needs to get involved. This is much deeper than it's not. All this chaos isn't natural. Of course, the bricks are being laid around everywhere. This is bad. This is not good. Oh, my favorite point of all. I don't know if I've made it yet, but magically COVID's gone. There, of course, I saw a couple headlines where the cases are shooting up. Hopefully, we won't see a huge spike in a week, because that would suck if we had to wait 10 weeks of being in basically quarantine to just find out that people had to lose their shit over civil unrest and then go back to where we started. Um, but there is some good news in that regard. Italy, um, their numbers are showing that they've basically beaten it, and they're saying that the strain that's left is a lot weaker. So hope that's a global thing. Anyways, that's for me. I'll catch you guys next one.